Right now you are rendering your life, but the final export is not for you. You are just an RTX 4090 in a desert mining farm, and someone else is harvesting your raw human hash rate. It's not you scrolling, but it's being scrolled with you. Nepo babies, core aesthetics, looksmaxxers, Benito Mussolini, psychological tests. At first glance it may sound like a fever dream, but it's not just a cultural chaos or coincidence. These are synchronized outputs of one global engineering scheme. We are programmed to think that our wishes and desires are just something natural, biological constants we brought with us from the womb. But you aren't born a subject. It's yet to be constructed and assembled in the dark. Today we'll take a look at those blueprints and reach into the cold technical specification of your desire. You will see why modern humans are so desperately trying to push their souls into the frame of a perfect mask. There's no such thing as plain entertainment. It's all the machinery. We are going to track the production line from your first preconscious impulse to the moment you start believing that you are an author of your assembly. And then I'll show you how capitalism already invaded not only your thoughts, feelings and dreams, but how it set up a trap right at the gates of life. Capitalism is not after you as a buyer, but as a livestock object, and it doesn't want just your money. Now it's after the computational power of your soul. You were never born free or tabula rasa. It's not a beginning, it's a closing deal. Your first operational system is the language. You had no other choice but to install it, and of course it had a user agreement. You as a pure biology was colonized by the speech through your others, parents and random people who happened to be around. The biological picture is clear. In the most optimistic case, you were born to pass a gene and die. But the language registration gave you an alternative. You are not just biology. And that tension between the pure biology and expectations of the others, parents, society, culture, it creates friction which bothers the biomachine of psyche. At some point that biomachine becomes so overloaded by its travel through worlds of language, it produces an unbearable static shock. The question, who am I, appears for the first time, and that accident becomes your first energy investment. But how do you choose the answer? Why have you chosen some exact thing among all the other things? In Plato's Dialogue Symposium, Aristophanes tells his dream bodies about the androgynous myth, which represents a thought that can be considered still popular in modern culture. In the ancient times, people were completely other creatures. Their bodies were much rounder, had 4 arms, 4 legs, and 2 faces, but Zeus dissected them into halves. Since then, everyone is searching for their second half, so the desire seems to be constructed as the solution for your exact trauma, as a unique key to the unique lock. Sounds believable, but sadly it's mostly bullshit. The biolinguistic overlord doesn't have time or resources to think of such high matters. As the lightning strikes the highest object, not the one God hates, the overlord invests into the object which just happened to be the nearest. It doesn't need to have your name on it, it just needs to be solid enough to be struck, to be invested in. There's no such thing as a perfect key. Any is perfect enough already, and becomes more perfect as you invest more. So the corrected formula of desire origin would be: the desire is constructed as a solution to the accident. This fact makes the picture much darker, because there's literally no sense. It's the humanity's greatest fear. All that intellect, all that consciousness, is just an accident which was allowed by the reality of senseless suffering, because you'll vanish anyway. If the pain is meaningless, it's just pure horror, but the desire is needed to build the sense. You are the catastrophe, which is trying to become a destiny. But in practice it's not so easy as it could sound. In modern world especially, there are a lot of ways not to desire. Many people even have never come up with the question, who am I? Anyway, you can't live in a state of eternal catastrophe. Glad nowadays we have a fucking market of identities. Nice and cool ontological plasters. Patch you in a void for mostly free and forget the anxiety. Now available in Gov Design. Why the fuck would you try to spend years untying the mystery knot of your existence if you can just have a shopping list and your existential horror is already nicely organized on those shelves? Let's begin the illustration from the top shelf. Nepo babies. They don't even need to go anywhere. Your parents' success makes you already successful by the right of birth. And if you somehow start feeling that it's not a good enough void patch, here comes a shitload of money. Just add a paycheck to your identity, and now it's solid. The reason why people are interested in Nepo babies is the broadcasting of the illusion of ideal object. They show the possibility of being whole, an ontological completeness of self-consistency. The rest of the viewers are making fun of how this illusion easily crashes just from a little wind gust. But the wholeness idea is really contagious, so if you weren't born the Nepo baby way, you can still try to achieve it. If a Nepo baby is a statue, then looksmaxxers is a sculptor who's trying to rebuild the defective body into an ideal object. And this idealness should be verified. It needs an audience, but who will help them if you, dear viewer, don't give a fuck about them so much that you even won't leave them a comment, at least, like that's fucking cringe. But here comes the gay tension aspect you may notice. Looksmaxxer is looking for the other looksmaxxer. They exist only for each other. Could sound romantic. Wait, I'll make it. That's the true bromance of two entangled voids filling up each other's holes with the loss. Classic yaoi trope. If you are a smarter one, there's a way to deal with you too. When you discover that you are different, that you are unique, your weirdness and queerness without a name become the fuel for anxiety, which may sometimes feel unbearable. But there's always an offer waiting for you too. There's a whole name list to pick from. Maybe I just have ADHD. Funny how psychiatry in every epoch has its most popular diagnosis, which is always given to completely different and even contrarian cases. Anyway, your psycho passport becomes your superpower, or at least a legal explanation of your powerlessness. People who come to psychiatry and come out liking it are not looking to be cured, they are looking for the registration in a system, which easily gives you a name in ontological patch. I'm my diagnosis. Psychodiagnostics is just another core and can be swapped as easily as you change clothes. The only things that stay real are your pain, anxiety and overload, which are not fitting in any diagnosis. Modern media culture defaults the question into a much simpler one. You're not asking who am I anymore, you're asking what's my core. Feeling weird? Try Goblin Core. Feeling complicated? Try feeling sophisticated wearing old money or classic stolen Vela. Aesthetic Core's carousel makes your TikTok feed an implanted constantly patching machine, which gives you no window for your own way of answering the question. You're smarter than that too? Here's an image for an intellectual. Every philosophy department has at least one bald guy in glasses. Intellectual cosplay is one of the most popular. But when Ernst Jünger, the grandly pretentious hypermasculine author of Storm of Steel, encounters Louis Ferdinand Céline, the intellectual facade shatters. The raw horror of Céline's stench of gutters and decaying Parisian arcades breaks Jünger's grandiosity. Death isn't the storm of steel, but a filthy wild dog biting your leg. But you don't need to pull on Jünger's military parade suit. World of Plasters is not a complete jail. There are some socially acceptable patches, which at the same time leave you some space for freedom. Using systems, language and patterns to survive can be your solution if you won't start believing that bullshit you tell the others. Always use social masks. What else can you use in the world of delirium anyway? ADHD, what does it mean? Literally nothing specific, so you can use that as a cover, or just call yourself neurodivergent. Don't like normies, wear a goth, want to make the grannies cross the road to the opposite side, try Vampire Core. In the world of patches and plasters, there are even some masterpieces. A culture of kanji sees the both planes of speech. Maybe that's why every generation of Japanese youth creates a unique way to wear their own pain. You can see it clearly now. The true Jiraikei adepts are Toyoko kids, whose pain is rooted in all the phenomena I can't even name on YouTube. When a Russian teenager on TikTok puts on a Japanese dry tragic or European pathos suit, that's not just a cosplay. That's anthropological pillage, parasitic consumption of meaning. They have no face of their own, so they want to steal yours, not just to wear as a mask. Serial killers from horror movies seem like puppies by comparison. They will scavenge your experience, your culture, your pain, only to take that stolen identity and grind it against the pavement like a piece of rusted scrap metal to make a sheath out of your soul, which will be aimed at the throat of anyone and everyone who is different from them. That's the tapeworm core. But let's step back from that modern overcomplicated sludge horrors and return to classics, to things already dumped in the landfill of history, allowing us to observe them from a safe distance. Isn't that why people watch documentaries? To feel that motherly touch of archived, safe history. Anyway, what can be more classic than Italian fascism, the corest core? Benito Mussolini, the Duce, a man whose goal was to build the world's most monumental patch, carved out of marble. Classic fascism was not about the economy, but purely about aesthetics. Italy was in chaos, unemployment, poverty, national level depression. But Duce says, ditch the reality, look at those pillars. And he literally dug the whole Rome to make the antique ruins visible. The My Roman Empire meme was not a joke for him. He really thought about it every single day. A total aesthetic obsession. At the same time, he really understood the situation. A single fragile twig is nothing but a promise of a snap, and Mussolini took these shivering, isolated sticks and made a sacred bundle, fascia. Historians tell us that Mussolini had an issue. He was afraid of becoming sexually impotent, and that fear represented his hollowness. He was impotent already, a man of thousand masks and zero substance, who felt alive only while reflecting the roar of crowd. Mussolini offered Italians a deal. Surrender your individual weakness, give up your leaking identity, and in exchange you will become a part of the sacred fascia. He didn't unite the people, but fused their collective profound impotence into a cold monumental pillar. This was the ultimate bargain, surrender and receive. It was a brutal, but a visible trade-off. 20th century authoritarian regimes show that even that overloaded anxiety could be turned into fuel. Modern capitalism doesn't offer you a bargain anymore. People are being fascinated how tricky the marketing develops. Corporations learn the behavior, targeting and other stuff. But remember I told you about the static shock, the spark that is created from friction of biology and language, causing the question, who am I? What if someone will try to make a business on that energetical economical situation of your birth? True green energy, not from sun or wind, but from your existential horror. Capitalism doesn't need to form a good consumer, while Mussolini still needed a good Italian. When the tension is unbearable and you're ready to strike to invest, capitalism already takes care of you. If the object is accidental, then someone from the outside can place this object for you. It doesn't wait for you to grow and start spending money. It inserts a turbine and collector right into your birth moment. And here we are, back in that desert. No matter how cool, smart and unique you are, if you're a human, that's enough to make profit. The turbine doesn't care about the design of your patch, it only cares about harvesting the static shock of your existence. Modern capitalism solved the glitch of the accident by hijacking it. Even that Ouroboros of senseless suffering is trapped, because there's no place left for the accidental horror. Your outcome is not death nowadays. When the Epstein Island isn't a fortune myth anymore, but a documented logistical hub of the elite's enjoyment, the accident is gone. Paranoia becomes the new realism, and conspiracies are no longer just theories. Modern horror is not reality's senseless gods, but the capitalism's disgusting and joined body revealing underneath every single object. But if the question who am I is already hijacked, a new one must be set. What happens to the farm when the hardware starts to melt and the livestock goes into systemic seizure?